and seem to have good session.
Yes, okay. So I hope everybody managed to at least, share your tiny text with somebody else and get a little bit of feedback. What would be very helpful to me now is if everybody could just in the chat, just indicate one thing that was useful to you from that interaction. Just very quickly, if somebody gave you a good idea or asked you a good question, you just chuck it into the chat quickly before we move on. One thing that was useful to you from that interaction. And type in the chat. No? Quickly say it if you want to, prefer. A couple of you. What was useful from that interaction? Anybody? Can we just hear you a little bit as well? No.
Oh, there was quite a few. Yes, go Malaysia.
Hi everyone. I'll just speak because writing is a bit of a challenge. I was with Priya. She gave a very, very lovely, clear story on her work on the citizen science work that she did. And what is useful for me is from when she started, how she framed her story until the ending, it dawned on me that that's actually the structure of like a journal article that I would use, because when I shared my story, I told her I got stuck, but when she gave her example, it kicked and I was like, oh my goodness. And then, she said, when you do this, it works in some cases, especially if you've reached the last stages of your work, then this could be a lovely formula or magic pattern or framework that you could use. So I found it really, really helpful listening to her. Sorry, Priya, if I'm saying her, she, they, share her example. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Maleche. Yes, so you can see the value of peer review. That's what I wanted to try to open up. I see, Colleen, you also had a nice interaction where you found diversity of perspective and the potential that it holds for your work in progress paper. Anybody else want to add something from their interaction?
Yeah, I could share. I could just speak.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it was interesting to just to read it out and to see what I was with Carleen and what she picked up on. Mm-hmm. And because sometimes I also think that it can get a bit too much, like you're trying to process too much and there's a lot of stuff happening, there's a lot of information. So it was interesting to see what she picked up on, and which kind of gave me an indicator of, okay, where are some of the strengths of this, and where is it strong, where is it immediately communicating something. And then of course there were other things, possibly also because of time constraints, that she did not mention, and then you just kind of think, did that come across clearly or did it not come across clearly, or is that something that I need to work on, or is that something that I need to focus on?
Yes, thanks very much for that, Sukesh. And I think what is useful about this type of activity, you can see that it's non-threatening as a way of getting feedback. So it's actually very cool to just, read your tiny text to lots of people. And as you say, follow what they are picking up. It helps you to think about what you've put down, what's being picked up, what you've put down, what's being picked up, what you've put down, and it makes you more reflective of how you're constructing your story, what it means to other people. And remember your 3 key people. If you can read your tiny text to one of them in person, well, try it. It's very interesting actually to do that, because then you also testing your narrative with your specific audience that you're trying for. So many nice comments from here. I think somebody got input into what they can still add into the tiny text. Somebody else was reminded that an article is a story and that you should write your article in such a way that the reader can follow your story clearly from the beginning to the end. Of course, that's what we do. We're making stories, we're producing stories in the world, And the academic text is as much a story as any other story. It's a story. It's just a story that gets written and presented in a particular way, you know, with a lot of care and a lot of rigor into a particular format. But that same story can be told in different ways with the same care and rigor. Somebody else talked about, got some questions to clarify. Doing the same kind of work across 2 institutions, and there's potential to collaborate. So you can also find, you know, partners in your writing if you do this kind of work together. Yes, listening to the story made me realize how easy it becomes to focus on the main parts of the story. So, you know, writing is not just a process of sitting with your fingers, it's also a process of listening and hearing and speaking and making your work, taking your work into this interactive space. Priya, your hand is up. Would you like to add something?
I just wanted to very briefly say that I've used that little formula, that those little sentences from the first time I encountered them in one of the previous journal writing courses. I haven't stopped using it. It's just such a nice magical formula to get to the heart of what you're trying to say without getting lost in the academic details. And I've also started using it to write proposals, because it's also a great way to summarize that first bit of a research grant proposal.
Absolutely. So it's a very good way to just get to, as I said, the kernel of what it is that you're trying to do and say. And from there, it grows. So the idea of from the tiny text to the word garden, from here we can now grow this little tiny text is going to grow. And we'll try, you know, as we move through the rest of this course, we'll stay with our tiny texts, make them grow. We can, of course, revise them, and I am going to invite you to do that. There's, you know, homework to be done on this course. It's not just sitting online with us for 3 hours. We are going to ask you to do homework. So I want to introduce you now to the first piece of homework. And then I want to spend a little bit of time on the journals, which will be the second piece of homework. So I'm going to go back to the mirror board. You don't need to go back yourself. You can go back in your own time. But just to show you that the next piece of work is sitting on the mirror board, and you can follow it afterwards. So, right. So now we're moving from tiny text to abstract. So what happens from the tiny text onward is that we work on trying to, I guess, get it better and get it more formal and get it more structured. And depending on where we want to target it to, we also have to put it into the format of that is going to work for the particular journal or publication that we are targeting. So some journals will ask you for a 200-word abstract. Some journals will ask you for a 500-word abstract. Some journals only want a 150-word abstract. So you need to then be able to tailor your tiny text into whatever that format is. But one also needs to probably formalize it a little bit. So you don't want to be using the once upon a time, you know, type of language, although the once upon a time tells us, you know, what was happening before. So it's actually a little line that helps us to get to the historicity of what we've and how we came to our research problem, you know. But then we thought that is, you know, how we started to conceptualize our research. And then, so what we did is our methodology for the research, how we did the research. What we discovered is what we've described as our findings, or the key important things that came through from our research. And then what it means for others, you end up usually with what it means for others or its significance, you know. So you follow that kind of same line of storyline actually that's in the tiny text, but it can become more formalized. So here on the mirror board, I have a PowerPoint presentation that you can access very easily. All you do, you don't have to do it now, but all you do is you click on it, and then you'll see that it opens up a little screen at the bottom here, 1 to 6, and there you have the PowerPoint. So there's the first slide, the fun exercise to start your thinking. We've been doing that together. That's the little structure for the tiny text. So you might want to rewrite your tiny text again, following the feedback that you've got and the suggestions that you got from your group. You might want to test your tiny text a little bit more with some of your colleagues and then come to rewriting it. So following on from there, I'm just going to show you this PowerPoint because you can work through it in your homework period. So what we're trying to do here is to get to an abstract, and the abstract is like a tiny text. It's the essence, it's the kernel, and it shows the argument that you're trying to make. It's the direction setter for your paper. So it helps you to structure your argument, and it gives a good overview of the paper. And it also communicates your key claim to knowledge succinctly, and it indicates how you did the research. So all of that is contained in this tiny text, which is also the abstract of your particular work. So as we move from tiny text to abstract, we can begin to see, all of these elements are contained in the abstract. The tiny text gives you the guide, and then you begin to formalize it. So here you can also do an exercise of, looking at other people's abstracts, and you can try to. Rev, can you just mute for me, please? So if you review other people's abstracts, it's also really helpful because it helps you to see how other people structure their abstracts. And most often, if you use this little point 1 to 9, you'll see that most people don't write very good abstracts. So most abstracts are a little bit like incomplete, so that people normally only do some of these things. They don't actually give you the whole story. So it helps you also to see, how to write a good abstract if you look at other people's abstracts. These little criteria are very helpful for reading or reviewing other abstracts. And when you decide on the particular journal that you want to work for, it's really good to go and look at how other people are writing in that journal, and also to be critical of it. So you want to look and you want to see if people are doing a good job or not, because you want to do a good job. So you need to understand, what is a good job. And so to look at the other writing and say, well, this is a good job, or I don't think it's such a good job. I think it could have been better. And therefore, if I'm going to do it, I'll do it in the way that I'm thinking it could have been done better. You see, it's very important for us to be able to do this because it also gives us strength in our own work and also confidence in how we begin to shape our narratives, our line of argument, the implications of our research, what it means for people. So you can see these questions: who are the intended readers? So you should be able to see who somebody is targeting a paper to, okay? And hence I also said to you, have those readers in mind. What is the history and the purpose of the project? In other words, how did this come to be? Why is it that people are working on this project? Why is it important? That question that I asked you earlier, okay? What did the researcher do? That's normally the researcher's design, methods, and approaches. Are they clear? Can you see what that researcher did? Did they interview 20 people? Did they undertake an arts-based inquiry? Did they work with children's drawings? Did they hold workshops? What did they actually do to undertake their particular research? And then why did they do it? So why did they use those particular approaches? Why did they use arts-based methods compared to survey, for example? Or why did they use a combination of focus groups and engaged research with communities? So, why did they do it? Is it clear? Did the writer tell you why they did that? What happened? What were the main results? What are the main things that they found from that? What do the results mean in theory? Sometimes people give that. So they'll say, this contributes to a particular area of theoretical work. In Priya's case, she's working a lot on, decolonial types of research. So it can have implications for that theoretical field, for example, or it can have theoretical implications for the field of curriculum research or pedagogical research or whatever your particular area is. And then what do the results mean in practice? So what do they actually mean for the teachers, for the education decision makers, for the learners, etc., for the communities that you're working with? What is the key interest for the readers? In other words, what is your core contribution? That first point that I asked you, what is your big idea? Why is it important? Is that clear? What is your core contribution or your core claim? And then what remains unresolved? And this is the nicest of questions, because It's what you couldn't do, but you would have loved to have done. So you can always say, well, this would, what still needs to be done is A, B, C, D, and E. In other words, that's the invitation then for other researchers who are reading your paper to begin to connect with what you've been doing, and that gives them good ideas for taking research further. So if I take my little tiny text on the motives for school food gardens, what I would say, what remains unresolved is that we need to actually go and do more field-based research, because remember, my research was only reviewing the existing written research. So I would say it would be good now to take the same question and go and do it with, in the field with learners and teachers, etc., etc. So that's a really nice little tool for reviewing abstracts. And then I'm going to just take you very quickly into one. Let me just see if I can get to it now. Yes. So here's a little abstract, and I'm just going to read it to you because it's quite a nice, very good abstract, actually. It's not in our field, but it's a really nice one. So this is a team that we're writing about the relationship between goal achievement and perceptions of success in family businesses. So they start by saying, defining success in terms of family businesses is problematic, and the debate on how to define success amongst these businesses is ongoing. So you can see here that they basically are phrasing the historical situation and the problem that they're trying to respond to. A goal is an aim or desired result, while success is defined as the achievement of an aim or purpose. So yeah, they're elaborating a little bit more. Then they move into giving us the purpose of their study. So remember in the tiny text, so what we did was, the purpose of this study was to gain greater clarity on the meaning of success as interpreted by owners of family businesses by looking at the relationship between their goal achievement and their perceptions of success. So here they're starting to tell you what they were doing, what they were aiming to do and what they were doing. The goals investigated were the continuity, financial, human resources, personal operation, service, socioeconomic growth goals. So they give us nice detail on what they were trying to investigate. Then they tell us what they did. Here comes the methods. A survey was undertaken using a structured questionnaire. The respondents were identified by means of the convenient snowball sampling technique, and the survey yielded 213 usable questionnaires on which to undertake the statistical analysis. So these researchers were using surveys, statistical analysis, and so on. And they're telling us about how they did that, telling us about the scope of the sample. In your case, if you did qualitative research, you could say, the team, the participants that you worked with were, 30 children in 4 different schools, or whatever the case may be. You give us the detail of who was involved in your study and how you did it. Then they tell us how they analyzed what came out of their work. So they're using a particular analytical approach here. And then they move here towards here. They're talking about in the pursuit of providing greater clarity. They're starting to give us the results or the findings of the study. And they're trying to tell us what it's going to mean in the field. And that's their main claim. That's what they really want to share with us, what they found and what it means in the field. So this is, you can see an abstract is also a tiny text. It's not long, but it's got so much in it. It's got all of the key things. So it's how people are situating the work into a field, the history, the context, the problem, the aim and the focus of the study, what they want to achieve, the methods that they use, and the interest to the field, the results, and their main claim, what they really want to tell people about their work. So that's an example of an abstract. So you see abstracts, we're spending a lot of time on abstracts. They're small text, but they're very important because they are a summary of the whole. And once you've got this summary of the whole, you then basically just tell us the rest of the story with, remember I said puffing up, we elaborate and we puff up the paper. So we actually puff up this abstract and we tell further detail, but this is the main line of what you're aiming to share. So there's an example you can go and have a look at in that PowerPoint. And then there's this amazingly helpful little tool And it's very, you need a bit of time for it. So I would suggest you know, put aside, say, an hour or something, and you take your tiny text, put your tiny texts next to you, and then you take this little guideline, and then you see if you can translate your tiny text into this little guideline, because this little guideline gives you a little bit more formal, okay? And it requires a little bit more discipline from you to translate the tiny text into a more formal abstract. So again, you know, list your intended readers. It's really useful. Never forget them. Then tell us what is the history of the project. How does it locate in the field? That's the once upon a time people thought that, right? Okay. And so you need to then do that in 50 words. And I really want to encourage you to work with this number of words, 50 words, okay? Because what it does is it disciplines you to really write it very clearly. And you've got to struggle a little bit to get your 50 words, but, you know, so tell us about the history of your project in 50 words, okay? Then tell us, what did you do? In other words, how you did your research in 50 words, okay? Then tell us why you did it in 50 words, okay? Because that is the rationale for how you did the research. Then what happened, which is your main results, tell us that in 50 words, okay? If you are trying to speak to the field of theory, or if you think you've got your results have got implications for theory, 50 words, okay? If your results are important to practice, 50 words, okay? And then what is the key interest for the readers? And here you've only got 25 words, right? And then what remains unresolved, you can have as many words as you want for that. Okay, so what this does, it does the same thing that you were doing in the tiny text, but it gives you a little bit more structure. It actually makes you perhaps a little bit more serious in how you are writing this, so you can then get. Can you mute people who are not muted, if you don't mind? So it gives you then enough, you'll have enough ammunition here to have an abstract ready to submit to a special issue journal. Now, special issue journals normally ask you to submit abstracts. And then what happens is the special journal editors will then choose the abstracts, okay? So, and you put anything in there. You see, you can put in, if you want to present your work in the same rationale for the work, and you can also indicate if you want to present it in a different style, or if it's going to be a short contribution or a long contribution, that you can deal with, you know, next. The important thing is to have the main story nicely articulated so that people can see what it was that this research was about, why it was done, how it was done, and what it means. That's the important thing. So I would encourage everybody, this is your homework. You can see, rewrite your tiny text more formally, and you can use this guideline then to write it into an abstract. And we would like to invite everybody to bring their revised abstracts to the session on the 20th of June. And if anybody wants support, there will be in writing these abstracts, or if you want to come and share your abstract with somebody and get feedback on it, then Gamo will be running what we call writing circles every Friday morning. And so you can feel free to come to those. So Gamo will let you know that those are there, and those are just open sessions where you can come, share your work, get feedback, tell people what you're struggling with, ask questions, which will then give you an extra support in order to write the abstract if you feel you need that extra support. Okay, so that's an open invitation just to give people a little bit more support along the way. We often find that we need a lot of support in the beginning until we get kind of into the groove and until we get going with this. So if you really feel like you definitely want to write an academic paper, you're still not feeling 100% confident that you can do it, or you're not sure that you're on the right track, then just come to the writing circles and we can provide extra space and support for that. Okay. So is that clear to everybody? Is everybody happy with that as a homework activity? And then, of course, the other thing to do is to then take your big idea and turn it into a title, and then to identify 2 or 3 keywords, or 3 to 5 keywords that capture the essence of your main ideas that you're writing about. And here I'll just show you my example, which is, I was reading you my tiny text, and here's my example. Let me just get it bigger. So I've given the paper a title now: Diverse Motives Influencing School Garden Projects in South Africa. Because if you remember my tiny text, I ended up identifying that people had different motives that were influencing the way that they were coming to work on school gardens. So a nice short title captures the essence, and then my keywords are school gardens, motives, and transforming education for sustainable futures. The trick with keywords is that they're not always just one word. Okay, so school gardens is a key word because it's actually a key concept. Motives is a key concept. It can stand on its own. Transforming education for sustainable futures, that's a concept on its own. So that is actually a key word. So even though it says keywords, we actually mean key concepts. Okay, key things that are going to help people to find your article. These words are very important because if people search, they'll find your article if you've tagged it with school gardens or motives or transforming education for sustainable futures or whatever those keywords are. So as we go along, we'll also work with you to make sure that your keywords are actually good and suitable. They often need to kind of connect with and be linked to the title. They must be in the abstract, because when people search for articles, they normally go to titles, they start with keywords, they find titles, and they find abstracts. If those titles and abstracts and keywords work for them, then they'll go into your article and they'll read it. So it's very important for people to find our research, you know, is through these strategies: the title, the keywords, and then this, you know, very good quality abstract that we've been talking about, getting to a very good quality abstract. So this is very, very important startup work. Unfortunately, we can't do it all together online, but I hope that the time that you've had at least to share your tiny text has given you, and your main idea has given you a good starting point to, you know, get to the end of this piece of homework, which we'll come back to then on the 20th of June. So what we would like you to do is to bring this abstract to the session on the 20th of June. Does that sound okay to everybody? Yeah? Everybody happy with that? Any questions at this point? No? Okay, so then I'm going to, yes, who wants to?
I'd like to copy this. Where are we finding this guide?
So if Previn, we can just put the, I'll put it in again, the Miro board link, Buchle. If you go to this Miro board, you'll find it there. And please, if I can just remind everybody to bookmark the Miro board, because we'll be using this as the main repository for our course. So everything that we do on the course, we're going to put on this Miro board. It will be in one place, easy to find. You can download. If you click on this PowerPoint booklet, you can download it. Okay. So you can download any of the materials from the Miro board. You can also add your pieces to the Miro board. You can see here when you were all busy working there, I wrote my tiny text is on the Miro board. So you can go into these little pink dots and you can put your tiny texts there, because it also helps us to keep a good record of what we're doing together. Okay, don't feel you have to do that, but you can. Okay. And then you can also put your title and your tiny texts into these little, your keywords, title and keywords. You can put them into these little blue boxes as you kind of begin to work on the Miro board. If you're unfamiliar with Miro boards, there's great training videos on how to use a Miro board, how to become good at Miro board. So also just use your capacity to learn new things and try to get onto the mirror board if you can. Okay, so I want to go to the last thing. I see there's 2 hands up and I've got 15 minutes left. So I do want to get to the journals because that's also just important for the homework. So John and Kalongo, can you ask your questions and then we'll move on?
Thank you, Prof. Just a quick one. With the abstract, since we're still doing our research, how do we conclude findings and things like that? Or are we kind of writing in futuristic? I'm a bit confused.
So you can choose, Kalongo, to write a different kind of paper. So you don't have to write a paper that has got already established results. You can write a paper that is a literature review, you see,
Okay.
like the one I was telling you about, this motives for school for, that's a literature review, you see. What I did was I identified all the research that was already been done on school gardens. It's a literature review. It's not an empirical study.
Okay.
So you can write kinds of things. So I think just kind of do the best that you can with this. And you'll actually find that in most cases, this is quite helpful.
Okay. Thank you.
So go as far as you can with this particular thing, and we'll work with you actually to, develop your abstracts and your papers for different what you call stages of the research as we go along. So you can also write a think piece, okay? Or you can write, which is usually doesn't have empirical results, but you still are working on an argument. You're still trying to make a claim. You're still trying to say something, you see. So it helps you to think about that.
Thank you, Prof.
John?
Thank you very much. I think my question was somehow related to that one. I think that response is enough. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. And then if you're unsure, just join one of the Friday morning sessions with Gamu, and you can then, massage your abstract so that it suits what you're actually doing. All right. But this is generally a good starting point, and it generally helps you. So you could also just ask, what does this work mean in theory? What does this work mean in practice? You see, what is the key interest for the readers? Those are useful questions, no matter what you're writing. Okay. Right. Can I move now on to I want to move on to the last part of the session for this morning because it's quite important. And this session is your top 3. It's the session on the top 3. So how do you find the top 3 journals? How do you find your top 3 journals that you want to target? So in our case, we're a little bit lucky in that the TESF project has got 2 special issues that are inviting papers from us. Okay, so these are 2 special issues of the Southern African Journal of Environmental Education. It's an open access journal, and we've agreed with the TESF project team that these will be co-editing and editing these special issue journals. So you can choose to write into one of these special issue journals. The way to work out whether you want to contribute to them is to read the overview. I think even Rhona will be surprised because I wrote this overview last night. She hasn't even seen it. And we've been working with Caleb in a partnership with another project on a special issue for climate change education and action. So if some of you have been working particularly on that, you might want to target that special issue. But if you've been doing more general work on TESF, then you can target this particular journal. And the way to work that, so what you can do again here, in order to see what's going on with these 2 special issues, you can click on it. And again, you can read it on the mirror board. So there's page 1 and there's a page 2. You see, there's the page 2. And on page 2, it gives you hyperlinks to the actual journal. It gives you the address where you need to send your abstract to, and it gives you a hyperlink to where you can find more about the journal's requirements and so on and so on. It also gives you the deadlines to submit your abstract by the 30th of June. And, it will then go through a process of being accepted for the special issue or not. And then you'll be invited to write your paper and then submit it by the end of October. It'll go for review. You'll get feedback from the review process, and you'll be expected to finalize your paper by February next year, end of February next year. So this is it gives you guidelines, you see, on how to begin to think about joining into the special issue journals. Again, if you have any questions, Gamo will be available to answer them in the Friday morning sessions, and she can also help you to find journals if you're not interested in writing for these two special issues, okay? So there's a whole world, if I could call it, of finding a good journal. There's a whole world of stuff that we need to know to find a good journal. And one of the most important things is that you have to be able to avoid predatory journals. Now, predatory journals are quite complicated because they are journals that are not of high quality generally, and mostly they're just trying to, charge authors a lot of money and not doing a good job of processing the journal. And so they can put your paper into a context where the quality is questionable, and you really want to try to avoid that. So what you need to do then is to understand what a predatory journal is. And there's like loads of YouTube videos actually on what is a predatory journal. I've also put a hyperlink in here that can help you to identify, to understand and also identify what is a predatory journal. There's a very nice little article here, and it actually gives you a good guidance on, what is a predatory journal and what journals to avoid. So if you decide on a journal, it's important to go and check that it's not a predatory journal. Okay, so that is very important. And again, if you're unsure, there's some children outside my window here. If you're unsure, then you can also ask Gamo in the Friday morning sessions. Okay, so if you choose your top 3 journals and you're not sure if they're predatory or not, you can have a discussion with Gamo on the Friday morning sessions. Say, I'm choosing these 3, not 100% sure if it's predatory journal or a good quality journal. Can you help me to see if it is or isn't? You see, it's very important for you to do that. So how do we know that this journal, for example, the Southern African Journal of Environmental Education, is actually seen to be a good quality journal? How do you know that? Okay. So one of the ways that you can know that is to look for where there are lists that list good quality journals. So there's this particular list, we call it the DHET accredited journal list. So in our context, the Department of Higher Education and Training has a huge process that they review journals very carefully, very rigorously. They review them so that to make sure that they are up to good standard. And then what they'll do is they'll accredit the journal. It's a very rigorous process that journals have to submit all of their information, their review processes, their editorial boards, how they conduct their business, all of that detail, and that gets reviewed by these big panels. Then they'll say, okay, this journal can be accredited. If the journal is accredited, then they will also recognize the output of that journal in the South African higher education system. So we use this list a lot because it's basically, we know then that these journals have been through, quite some good scrutiny, and they have also looked at other lists of journals, and they've given us basically guidance as a nation, where to target your publishing so that you can avoid these predatory journals. So this is a very, very good list. You can go to it and you can then check whether the journal that you want to publish in is on the accredited list. It can also help you to choose a journal, because you can then type in your keywords. Say if you type in your keywords on education, you can look at or transformative pedagogy or transformative learning. You can check which journals are publishing on transformative learning, and then you can look at those journals and you can see, does this look like a good fit for me? or not, you know. So it helps you to choose journals. If you're interested in decolonial futures, you can type in, you know, decolonial, and you'll probably find journals that are covering that kind of things. If you're working in higher education, you look for higher education journals and you can see which ones are there. You can then make your choice and so on. So that's a very, very good list to help you to start choosing of journals. And then this is another list. It's a website called the Sci Major website. And it is actually very useful because you can go to the website, you can type in your topic. So you can type in environmental education, or you can type in education and development. In other words, the area that you're interested in publishing. And then you'll get a good list of journals. You can click into them, and then you can go to those journals' websites and you can find good journals there. So that's 2 strategies for finding good journals, and a little bit of a warning that you want to avoid predatory journals. Okay. So unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time now to give everybody a chance to start searching for your journals. So I think that what we will do is we will, in one of the Friday morning sessions that GAMO runs, we'll do a special session on finding your journal. Okay, so you can play around a bit with these lists, look into there, search a little bit around areas that you think match your work, see what comes up, look at the journals, go to the journal website, look at a couple of the papers that they're publishing, and you'll quickly see whether there's a kind of a fit for what you're wanting to do. Okay, unless you decide you definitely want to go for one of these special issues, then you can also target those. Okay, so it's very important for a writer to choose their journal. Okay, because there's many journals, and you need to be, you know, clear as to where you want your work to be seen, and also who is going to read your work and so on. You can also look at whether the journals have open access. The SAGI journal, for example, is completely open access and it doesn't charge anybody anything. It's completely free and open access. And the reason for that is that we as an association are subsidizing the management and the production of the journal. So we take funding from the membership is supporting the journal, and we don't actually charge authors for publishing in the journal, or institutions either. And we make it completely open access because we're very committed to making Global South scholarship widely available. So we put a lot of work into getting this journal onto an open access platform, the Africa Journal Online, making it open access, making it available to people all over the world. And it's amazing actually how many people all over the world are downloading papers from this particular journal. So that's one opportunity, but there are many others, and you may be choosing to, you know, to put your journal, your paper in somewhere, in some other journal. So the important thing to do when you're doing this work, and you can see here I've got more homework for you, I'll go through it now quickly, is that you need to also work out what the journals are wanting from the authors. You see, because as I said earlier, some want you to write an abstract of 200 words, some want abstract of 100 words, some want papers of 6,000 words. Some journals only want papers of 3,000 words. So you need to really look carefully and get a good sense of, you know, whether what you're doing is going to fit well with the particular journal. So it's important for you then on this little board, you can see you've got to find a journal that publishes work similar to what you're wanting to produce. You need to make sure that the journal is a good quality journal, and also that it's a good fit. You need to be alert to and know about predatory journals, so you don't end up, you know, in a sticky situation where you're taking your beautiful work and you're putting it into a dicey journal. And then you also need to go to the journal and work out what the journal wants from its authors. And the best way to do that is to go to the journal's website and download the author guidelines. They always give very clear guidelines to authors, and you can make some notes on what you need to attend to. And then you can, you know, be a little bit more ready to, you know, continue the work of developing your paper. The reason why we ask you to find 3 journals is that journals are also not always going to accept your paper. So the first journal, you might love it, but it might not love you. So then you might get rejected, okay? And it's quite normal to get rejected. People get rejected a lot. And then you just say to yourself, okay, well, they don't like what I'm doing. I'm going to try another one. So then you try your second choice. Second choice doesn't love it, then you try a third choice, okay? So you don't have to be put off by if journals reject you. Sometimes journals reject papers simply because they just get way too many. And they only take very few, so they have a very small acceptance rate. Other times it's not a good fit, and the editors of the journal feel, well, actually, you know, this paper is not actually a good fit for the kind of research that we publish, because we mostly publish, you know, surveys and quantitative type of research, but this person is doing qualitative kind of research, or so on, you know, so there are different reasons, but one can expect to be rejected. And, you know, I don't even like the word rejected really, because it's really just saying to you, it's not a good fit. So then you need to keep looking for the good fit. So the idea of the good fit is important. And we will work with you to try to make sure that whatever you submit is of the best possible quality, and that it does meet what the journals are asking for. Okay. So that's just a little bit of a heads up in terms of, you know, how to go about finding good journals. And as I said, we can run a special session on this where we can give more time to actual practicalities of it, but it will be very helpful if you go and see if you can find your way a little bit with this, and see if you find journals that you think are looking like they could work for you. And then also look at the calls, these 2 special issue calls that are here, which, as I said, you can click on and then you can just download them. You can see there's a download button there, or you can even read them on the mirror board. So anything on the mirror board can be downloaded. You just click on it and there's a download button. Okay, so if you want to download it to your own computer and read it slowly at home, that's fine. If you want to download it, print it out, and have time to read it on your desk, that's fine. It's easy to do. You just click on it and download. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? Is that sort of give you a way forward for that? So the homework here, you'll see that the mirror board, anything pink on the mirror board is homework. Okay, so if you're not sure what your homework is, it's in pink. I think Priya will remember when we ran the master's course, all our assignments were in pink. So that we know what our work is. It's in pink, okay? Your deadlines are in orange, okay? The headline guidance is in these big yellow stickies, okay? And then materials to work with, you can see is these other things. So homework 1 is to, after you've done your revised tiny text, homework 1 is to try to find 3 journals that you think you can publish in, and try to order them by choice. So say, this one looks like my favorite, okay? This one looks like my second favorite, and this one looks like my third favorite. And if you find more, you could say, well, I have a 4th favorite and a 5th favorite. There's nothing stopping you doing that, okay? Then what's important to do is to then read the journal requirements and try to see if you need to rewrite your abstract to address the journal requirements. So some of them, as I said, might want short, longer. Some of them might want you to structure the abstract in a specific way. So have a look at what they want when it comes to abstracts, and then you can even do another version of your abstract, okay? And then also look at what the journal wants in terms of length of paper is very important, because you don't want to write a 20,000 word paper for a 3,000 word journal. You see, you then need to plan your writing, and that we'll do in the next session, so that it actually is going to be 3,000 words and not 20,000 words, okay? Most journals will take between 3,000 and 6,000 words. Some of them allow 8,000 words. So if you're a prolific writer and you've got a lot of detail, then you want to try to find a journal that's going to give you like 6,000 to 8,000 words. Otherwise, you're going to just be frustrated, you know? Or if you've just got something short that you want to share, then maybe a journal that takes short and very focused. You want to then maybe look for one that takes shorter papers. In the ESA journal, which is this one here, we take different things. We take viewpoint papers, we take case stories, we take think pieces, we will take poetry, we will take illustrated narratives. In other words, you can use picture narratives. So we will take a diversity of forms of writing. And we take up to 7,000 words, I think, maximum. So those of you who want to write slightly longer, it's okay, you can relax into it. You can also write a short paper, which is a viewpoint paper, rather than an empirical research paper. So you have different things that this journal will take different types of things. Okay, and then if you've got time still to try to identify one or two papers from that journal that interest you, and then you can read them and see what you can learn from the authors around what they've written and how they write their journal papers. So that, I think, is the homework, and the task then is to try to bring this to the session on the 20th of June. So there's a 3-week period for you to rewrite your abstracts and to do some homework around possible journals. Is that okay for everybody? And we will send out a little email which captures the detail of that, so that those that have dropped off or weren't able to stay the whole time can get the information. Is there anybody who'd like to make a quick comment before we head off? I don't know if Rhona's there, if she's got any. She's jumped off. I think she's got another. Oh no, she's still there. Rhona, do you want to add anything from your side?
Hi, thanks so much, Heila. This is fantastic. I just wanted to add, I've just put it quickly in the chat, that as you're saying before about open access in terms of Southern-led research and equity is really important, and it's also one of our TESF funder requirements. So as much as possible, people can make sure they're accessing open access journals, or there are other ways of making your paper open access in a non-open access journal. And there's different ways of doing that. So if anyone has questions, please do get in touch with me, and I can help kind of navigate those kind of messy journal dynamics. But that was all to add, really. Thanks, Heila.
Thanks so much, Rhona. And then perhaps what we'll do is we'll ask if you can join Gamo for that session where we discuss the journals in more detail. Then we can also try to help people who are still struggling to find good journals or who are not sure, and then maybe make some suggestions also from our side as to which ones might be good for which types of work. So we will need, I think, an extra session on that. I'm also just going to put your little contribution now that was in the chat. I'm just going to put it here on the mirror board as well, Rhona, so that we've just got it there on record for people to find easily and quickly. And then John is asking me, how do we bookmark the mirror board? Very important question, John, because the mirror board is our friend for this course. So the way you do that, let me see if I can just get all this other stuff off my screen, is you click at the top of the mirror board. Can you get the link there, you see? Yeah. And then you go to bookmarks at the top of your screen. And then it will say add bookmark. Then you click add bookmark. Right, and then it will ask you to add. And then you should have that in your bookmarks. So next time you're looking for the mirror board, you click on bookmarks, and then it says show bookmarks. And then if you look down your bookmarks, you should find it. I was very lucky, I found it earlier. There it is. You see tiny text to word gardens, and you just open that up, and then you're back on the mirror board. So to stay in touch with the mirror board, bookmark the mirror board, and you should be fine. If anybody is unsure of what to do or get stuck, please let us know. Gamo, I think you've all met Gamo. Gamo, are you still there? No, Gamo's still there. But Gamo, Yeah, I'm not sure if she's still there, but in any case, Gamal, we'll send you her email as well. She's working with me and she's fantastic. She's got a lot of experience of writing circles and supporting people to write and to navigate the journal world. She's published a lot and she's absolutely great and very, very helpful person. So we have a team here to help you. Ron has also suggested helping and so on. Right, I have another 1, 2, 3 hands up. Shall we take them quickly and then we'll have to wrap up because I've got another meeting starting at 15:15. Pri? Bukhle? Caleb?
Hi, I put up.
Prof.
So Priya, yeah?
Hello.
Hi, I put
Who's speaking to
Please go
Priya?
on.
Can we go Caleb first, then Priya, then Bushle, please, and quickly if you can.
Yeah. Caleb?
Right. Please go over the bookmarking process. My system is a bit slow here.
Ah, okay. Can you see the link there, Caleb?
Yes, I do, Prof.
Yes. Okay, then at the top of your browser, you should have a bookmark, something that says bookmarks. And
Okay.
then it says add bookmark.
Okay.
And then you should have it in the bookmarks. Next time you're looking for it, go to bookmarks and it should show up and you can find it there. Yeah.
Thank you.
We'll also send out some instructions for those that have missed that. Who's next, Caleb? I mean, Priya.
Yeah, I put a comment in the chat, so I don't have to repeat it. But there are just 3 things I've recently learned about open access that are quite important for the TESF community, I think, especially around the Creative Commons license and the editing costs for other journals. It's just there.
Project proposal.
Sorry, I muted all. Priya, please unmute and carry on.
I don't need to go into it, but maybe if it's okay, I can just copy the chat and put it where the journal section is on the mirror board. Would that be okay? It's just 3 things to be aware of when you look for journals.
Please unmute, Prof. You're on mute now.
Sorry, I said thanks, Pri. And then what we'll do also when we have the journal session is we'll discuss that a bit more and also try to, help people and guide people in terms of the issue of the open access costs. So if you could join us for that session would be awesome as well. So
Great. Bushle, please unmute and go ahead.
Thank you, everyone. So with me, the major help I need is to locate my work within the education sector, because my work is looking at the skills for the people that are not in high school, secondary school, or tertiary, the people that don't have that kind of basic education. So yeah, I need that help.
Yeah, that's good, Bukhle. I think if you're looking for journals there, you want to look for adult education journals that publish community education. The SAGI publishes those kind of education papers as well. But also, I guess that's another question you can bring into one of the Friday morning sessions where we have, the writing circles.
Okay.
Okay, but we can also take that forward a bit with you. John, do you still have a question or is that an old hand? No, old hand. All right. Okay, everybody. So I think then with that, I think we can say thank you very much for joining us today. It's been very nice to be with you. I hope it's been okay for you and also a little bit helpful. It's always a bit difficult to do online teaching in a very interactive way, but I hope that we've at least been able to, open the floor for us for this work and that we can, continue working together on our papers and move forward to develop our work in such a way that we'll get good quality Global South scholarship out there in the world. That's what we're aiming for. So thanks very much, everybody, and have a lovely day further. Thank you, Previn, for helping me. And thanks to everybody for your contributions. It's awesome to see all of this work coming through. Amazing. Thank you. And thanks, Rhona, also for joining us and for helping along with the process as well.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, guys. See you next time, 20th of June, Friday mornings if you want extra help.
Bye, everyone.